Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the TFC live show, Season 3, Episode 12. Today we're going to talk about Butcher's Bay and go through the raid and also about the weekly update. And today I'm joined by George. Hey, George.
Evening, everybody.
Okay.
Hope we're all doing well.
Yes, hope everybody's over their raid hangovers. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive on in here. We got a lot to go over today. The slide pack content is going to include the Butcher's Bay raid review, as well as our weekly update, as well as our bug fixes and tuning. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Butcher's Bay, I actually enjoyed this raid. I know there were a lot of other people that enjoyed it as well. I think switching from the 3 cycle to the 4 has given people more time to be able to build their fleets, finish their fleets, and work towards getting the prizes. The big positive with this, as has been for the last couple of raids, is that you've not been required to have both of the elite hulls. So if you had just Bucky's built, or if you just had Hydra's built, you were able to go ahead and hit the elite level targets, the S sets, or tier 8, I think they're known as now. And you could go ahead and, because of the high payouts and the low set bonus, people were able to go ahead and grind out an awful lot of points without having to worry about having that second fleet. There were also multiple target types and layouts. You weren't locked into any one path. For example, I saw some very creative Hydra videos. You were able to either go down south and through the gate and attack that one, or go up north. There were lots of opportunities for people to go ahead and do those. And then the other thing that I really liked about this was players that still had half-built fleets were able to grind lower targets. There was a gentleman on the page, I think, that split his 4 Buckies up into 2 sets of 2s and was actually grinding out 65s.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine that actually, he had not that much time, but he took advantage of his Buccaneer fleet wasn't completely done, and he ground out, I think he ended up with like 120 million, 125 million points. It was really good. I liked it, and I absolutely loved being able to auto the S targets. It saved me a ton of time, and I was able to do it while I was doing other things. So that was good. That was very good.
Yeah, so a lot of folks were able to go ahead and grind out some points. And then I know this is your personal bugaboo, George. The time spent to kill the targets I thought was very reasonable.
Yes. Yep. And even when you're autoing, you weren't sitting there waiting for 10 minutes to get through it, which was phenomenal. The other thing that I really, really liked, and I don't know if a lot of people had noticed this, I know a lot of people were upset about the little switch or change in the 80s. But if you were doing the S targets, you could still use last month's build without having had to escalate everything. I did refit my boon to add the new special, that lowered cannon mount, I think it's called. So it would go up ahead of everything else, so it would tank well. And that worked out very, very well, especially when I used, crews to take advantage of the crew and stuff. I mean, I was cranking out targets. It was nice and quick. I wasn't sitting there for 5 hours trying to just do, like a handful of targets. And I'm really glad that I didn't have to escalate the heck out of my builds, because I was building dragons, which that's going to be another bugaboo later, I believe.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't refit anything. I mean, I was still finishing my Hydras, and in fact, I used the Hydra tokens from the raid as well as the regular ship build tokens to go ahead and finish my 5th Hydra, so that I was able to go ahead and complete the targets much more efficiently and cheaper. And oh yes, that 5th one made such a difference too. It was really good. But I didn't put anything on the Bucky. In fact, kept it as my other build, and I know there were a lot of other folks that did the same thing where they kept their original build as well. So I really like that as well.
Very nice.
Okay, and then moving on to some of the bugs. Obviously, we all felt Thursday morning, I'm going to call them shenanigans because I'm not allowed to use naughty words. Obviously, there were some issues as we went through some of the worlds going through. And from what I understand, Alpha wasn't too bad, but then as more worlds were added, it got progressively worse to where it was taking, at least for me, 2 minutes just to get to a screen. In the battle was fine. It was just getting to the battle.
Yeah, and there was a point where it took me, I think, 6 minutes just to get a repair started. And, for lack of better terms, we'll say the horse pucky on Thursday morning, because, yeah, that was not kosher.
Yeah. The one thing that they did do was they obviously reacted to it as quickly as they possibly could. They did get it taken care of quickly. And then they did go ahead and increase the elite target point payout. They added, I believe it was 1,000,000 points per each of the individual targets that you completed. They didn't add it to the bonus. They actually added it to the single targets. The only complaint, I liked it, obviously, but the only complaint that I had was that it wasn't just the folks that were hitting the elite targets that were affected by this. It was everybody.
Yeah,
So,
I actually, I took full advantage of this when they added that extra million to it. I took complete advantage of that, and I just pounded out targets. And I thought I was done until they added stuff in, but
yeah, I would like to have seen, I mean, I think it was what, a 20% increase. I would like to have seen that applied across the board to the, even to the guy that was using
yeah,
their
the
single
AC.
ironclad on the 41s.
Yep. Yeah, that would have been nice. And I think it might have been a little bit better too if they had said they had announced it and did it from Friday into Saturday, because a lot of people were still working when that completed. So, I don't know. Here and there, I mean, for what it was still a good thing to do given what had happened. So that's a plus.
Yeah.
Overall, it's definitely a plus.
Yep. Hopefully, if something like this happens again, obviously a game-wide issue affects everybody game-wide, and if they do some type of compensation or points thing, that they'll apply that to everybody. A couple of other issues that popped up, obviously, was the in the Hydra Elite target there was a double turret on the top right-hand side. That was corrected pretty quickly when that was identified. What I'm calling the evil emitter in the 83 target. If you were using bucks and that thing landed within where you were at, it was apparently instant death. I did not suffer from it. I took somebody's advice on the page and actually stopped my bucks and waited until that emitter dropped before I went ahead and continued on the target. I also know that that caused issues where um, with the next one where we're talking about emitters dropping inside the Hydra min range. Launchers have a minimum range. I think it's like 70 to 90 or something like that. And so inside that circle, if emitter gets dropped, especially if you were on auto, your Hydra didn't know what to do. It couldn't shoot at it because of the minimum range. So basically it just sat there and didn't do anything.
Which, and that's really strange, because what I don't understand is if you go into an NPC target and that happens, if you get inside the minimum range, they turn around and try and get back to a minimum range to be able to hit you. So I'm not sure why that happened like that. Generally, if you're on auto and something happens or something comes into your minimum range, you move. The AI moves you so you can still fire at it. So I don't know if it was getting stuck between targets like the Ironclad used to in the Drac bases. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not sure what I hadn't gotten a chance to see it. My hydras weren't done, so
Yeah, and that is a good segue straight into the next one, which was fleets completely getting stuck on auto. I want to say it was the 83 for the 80 set and 63s for the 60 set. And I know Ren was actually experiencing issues on the Bucky Elite target where his bucks would the first buck would get in range of the target. The rest of them kind of stopped a little way behind, or it stopped just out of range and nothing was happening.
wow. I thankfully did not have that. I only had one. Well, actually, I had two instances. It was the same thing, and I caught it at the last minute, because I would once in a while pop into the target just to check every once in a while. And mine, the bucks completed the target. I had a bunch of, I mean, way more than 75% health left, and I was at the very, very end, and they just suddenly died. Like the target died, and then my ship sank, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what just happened?" I have no idea what happened. Still, no clue on that one.
Yeah, so I would advise for the next raid, if you are autoing, and what I was doing was I was actually being bad. I had a movie going on the other side.
There you go.
So I just had it opened next to it in a little tiny screen just to kind of keep an eye out while I was streaming movies. And yay, Netflix. And then, it was keeping an eye on it so I could notice, if it took a little bit longer than normal to finish, then I'd, go take a peek kind of thing. Okay, so moving on to the prizes, they announced, and well, we all figured it out pretty quickly, that there was no charged armor in the raid. I understand, and we'll talk about it in just a minute, that there was some charged armor that was included in the FM this week, although it's a little bit different. And I know they did do the charged TLC just prior to the raid, but even that only gave 5 panels. So we had the Bucky co-op just recently where they were able to get the hull, and then the TLC, which gave 5 charged panels. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm running full armor across all of mine, which is, way more than 20 pieces of armor across the fleet. So, I was pretty disappointed that that wasn't included.
That's probably the one thing, because I enjoyed the raid thoroughly, but that one thing was such just a thorn in my side. I really, really wanted some charged armor, especially at least the 2 new ones, because you're still earning the Buccaneer. People are still getting the Hydra. You need that armor. You really do. So I'm not sure why they had done it. I mean, I understand that they had, they said that there were other opportunities to get it, but even still, I mean, it's in the raid, and that's traditionally where we've gotten it. So next month, hopefully, maybe they'll listen and put a couple in, at least 5 or something, just so we can get it on the new stuff at least. And then
I know there was a note from Chris, I think it was, Rampage had posted on a thread that I was reading at some point there, where he did state that they would be rerunning the TLC for the charged armor again this month, which is excellent, and it's great because people are able to go ahead and continue to get those and get more. But that's still, even with the last 2, that's still only 10 panels of each, and if you're running more than one fleet, that you need a whole heck of a lot more than that.
Yeah, but I mean, I would just rather have the option, because some people would rather get it in the FM because it's easier for them to get the FM points, and some people had, I had extra points when I finished because I was testing things. I ended up running up my points like crazy, but I would have loved the opportunity to get a couple more armors and not have anything hanging over my head where I might need them later on.
Yep.
Options.
Okay. Yep, options. Moving on to tokens. They had 10 days of the Bucky tokens and 10 days of the Hydra tokens. The Hydra one saved my hiney. I was able to go ahead and finish that fleet. And hello, Ren.
Hey, how are you?
Ren.
Good, thank you. They also had, again, the structure tokens. I know there are people that are still struggling with getting their shipyards done. If you can do it yourself and grind it out, or if you can get help with it, get those tokens so that you can upgrade most of your shipyard without losing that build time for 15 days. And they also added the additional tokens. I want to say it was Friday night. Yeah, Friday night, because we talked about it Saturday. Friday night late, they added in chameleon tokens. That's both for the chameleon flag as well as the regular chameleon. And they also added in the Inferno Dragon tokens, which everybody was happy about, except those that all thought they were finished for their raid. And they also added in 5 Gale 2s.
Yep. I was very happy to see the Gale 2s. I mean, I was happy to see the tokens. It just kind of came as a surprise because I was like, I thought I was done. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I got to get a whole bunch. And now seeing some things that came out this week, I actually am glad that I got the Inferno Dragon tokens because I'm a little perturbed.
Yeah. Ren, you had a comment. You thought not having the charged was okay?
No, I thought it was great. Not having charged armor was amazing because the week before we had a walk in the park, piece of cake TLC to get charged armor. Co-op. I was in a sector where I remember I counted. I helped 8 people get price pack 1. I helped 4 people get price pack 2, and I helped 5 people get price pack 3. And you get a whole bunch of charged armor. Then we had the other types of charged armors in FM. So not having at like 10 million points of pop, right? Just 5 Cs, 5 Rs. That would be like 100 million points in raid. That actually I still had to do them anyways, but to get tokens, which was a lot more useful than more charged armor.
Yeah, but Brent, it's an option. I mean, you don't have to get them. I'd rather have the option there and not have, and choose not to take them than not have the option at all.
Yeah, I was being greedy. I want the TLCs and in the FM and in the raid.
You do.
But what happens, George, is that most people just go like, "Oh, I gotta get everything."
And that's
if they're there, people will go for them, and then will complain, "Oh, this game is so grinding. Oh, it's such a grind. Oh, I can't look at it anymore." Yeah, not having it there, the other option was great. And that's just my opinion. You can disagree if you want. It's just it was great.
I just think that I don't want Kixeye to mother me. I can make my own decisions. You know what I mean? If it's too much for me to do,
you can. The people who post, "Oh, I bought 3 metal alloy. What are they for?" They can't. Right?
I'm not going to touch that one.
The people who redeem the Chameleon CR and say, "Oh, can I have a build for FM?" They can't make their own decision. So it's good that it's not there.
Yeah.
My opinion. Okay.
No, it's a valid opinion.
Maybe a bit condescending and a bit of an asshole opinion, but it's my opinion on that.
Okay, and then, of course, the big excitement for today, at least, is the single-built Proto Tideseeker that was awarded to those who claimed the hull, the Proto hull special and weapon during the raid. I'm in the 200s. I already have mine. I know there are some other people, I think, that may still be waiting for theirs. They're not all going to drop instantly. It is going to take time for that to go ahead and be awarded to everybody. I did want to bring up the picture, though, to take a look at it, because there's a couple things that I've seen people, I'm just going to leave it or not use it. There are some things that are on this hull that even if you're never going to use it, it may actually be worth A, keeping it, or B, scrapping it. First off, there are a couple of Gale 3s, obviously, that are limited. There's charged armor that's limited. There's agility 4 that's limited. There's also the PBX special for the hunter that's on there. There's also, I think, that siege reloader that's on there, or is that the anti?
The autoloader 4.
Autoloader 4.
Not autoloader. I'm sorry. Countermeasure loader.
Countermeasure loader. That's it.
Countermeasure loader 4, which is a hard to get blueprint.
Exactly. That one was, I think, in Tech Up 3.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, so there are some advantages to having this, either by scrapping it to get the other components. But if you do receive this, my understanding is that you get the blueprint for the non-limited items, so you may be able to take advantage of using that elsewhere.
Yep.
Okay, so that kind of covers the raid. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weekly update. I'm going to punt to George on this one.
Oh my. So the weekly update is going to, we had initially been told that the 115s were going to be gone this month, and they had reviewed that and changed their idea of what was going to happen. So now starting this week, the 115s are going to stay for another 3 weeks. The first week it's going to be at 250,000. The next it's going to go down 50,000, so it'll be 200,000. And again, the same the next week, so it'll go down to 150,000. So they're going to slowly wean us off of the 115, but it's going to remain until the April event, and the points will reduce each week. And then we're going to see the new 112, and we've been told that the dragons would work very well in them. And if you have a fully ranked and retrofitted icebreaker or the Zealous monolith fleet, you should be able to pull us off in the icebreaker. I think, did they say that we had to have the Visagos was part of that tuning?
Yes.
For that, so you have to have the Visagos on the icebreaker. It has to be a full fleet of icebreakers.
Yeah, fully
Visago retrofitted, ranked, and with charged armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that, it's I like this move because it gives people a chance to still be able to hit the 115s that they're comfortable with, while they're doing their Inferno Dragons or retrofitting their icebreakers or what have you. So it gives a little bit of breathing room to the community. I like this change. I really did enjoy seeing that come up, because that kind of alleviated a lot of pressure to players that weren't ready.
Yeah, I would like to have seen this be the original approach. And for the next time around as well, maybe think about doing it this way, even if they started earlier, but give some time there, because there was what, a month, 2 months, and 17 days build, you know, times 4 or 5 ships equals more than a month to 2 months. Okay, so that's the FM piece. With respects to the targets, let's talk about some of the new stuff that's in there. We've got 4 new items for pool 5, and then we've got 3 items for pool 4, and then we also have the inclusion of the M and the X armor in prize pack 4 again. Now, they have changed this slightly. You will now be able to get 2 of the M and the X armor each week. So instead of getting like 4 or 5 in one hit, it looks like they're going to be releasing those each week. So look to see those in there each week. And these will be excellent. And I'm hoping they keep them at the same price. I think what was it, 60K?
Yeah.
Yeah, 60K. The folks that are just got their new Infernos, you know, this will help. There's obviously people out there that are still trying to finish their FM fleets or looking for that extra armor. This will help significantly. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into some of the new toys. George, you're the Hydra expert.
Oh no, that's Ren. I'm still not done, and I'm actually going to be putting these on my new one. It's the new launcher for the Hydra, obviously, and it's limited to a siege hull class. The damage goes up. Do we have to, Robin? Did we have the slide that compares the two? That way I can go back and forth.
Yep, no, that's okay. So we're kind of adding a new slide in now, hopefully, that will help.
Yeah. So now the damage goes up another 890 for each weapon. So it went from 2,000 to yes.
No. It goes up by a lot more because it has 1 extra shot on the multi-shot.
Right, but the damage is 2,000 to 2,890.
Yes.
So that's 890.
Yes.
That's what I just said.
No.
Okay, Ren, take it away.
I'm just messing up with you.
So it goes up 890 from the original one. The reload time stays the same. The multi-shot actually goes up 1. The shockwave damage goes up from 15,000 to 17,250, which is interesting because a lot of players were saying that they were seeing shockwaves this raid, and it didn't seem that they were doing much. So given the extra multi-shot there with the shockwave damage increase, you might see the shockwave come much sooner now with the new launcher. Yeah. And hopefully it'll do some more damage than the last one.
Now, that damage over there, the one that went up at 890, doesn't really matter at all. What really matters is the building damage down there that went up by 6,273.
Yep, from 11,500 to 1,773.
That's the big one.
That one is a huge change, and that hopefully that in conjunction with the shockwave damage increase is going to, I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be tuning done for the target, but hopefully that's going to let your Hydras smoothly go through the S targets. I would hope.
Yeah, and don't do what Rue did, where she thought she wasn't getting shockwaves, and then she realized she had all those effects turned off.
Nice. I didn't even think of that.
Well, okay, so that's the new launcher. Moving on to the new launcher system.
It looks like interception system, but cooler.
Yep. Yep. In fact, we were talking about that just before the show. So this one has an increase of combat speed. I think it's 5 or 10% more of the original if we compare it to the original interception system. This one obviously is more chubbier. It's much heavier. Does not have the penetrating damage, but it does have double the supercharge, the launcher supercharge, and then there is an additional 40% of shockwave very
Yep. That's going to be a very interesting combination with the new weapon. Very interesting.
We verified before the show, from what I could see in the shipbuilder, this actually stacks with the duplex thing. I'm drawing a break.
Multiplex.
That's
something.
It. Yes.
Is that what it is? Multiplex.
Yeah, because that one increases multi-shot, I think, and radioactive damage. I'm not sure it deals with reload. Maybe, not sure.
Yeah. So yes, this one looks like it's a viable upgrade. Okay, moving on.
The only downside of that guy is the combat speed. On one hand, the extra 30% combat speed means you can finish the target in less time, which is great. The downside is that it's harder to stop out of range of the blunderbusses, so it requires a more careful driving and approaching those short-range turrets, because you're going to be going at them a lot faster.
And, you know, we were talking about that earlier on. I had used the Hydra targets to refit and finish my last Hydra, and for the first 2 targets after I added that 5th one, I made a spectacular effort of driving right into the blunderbuss because I wasn't paying attention to the speed.
Ouch.
Yeah, so yeah, learned that one the hard way. Okay, moving on now to the new Siege rockets. This is a Conqueror and Defender rocket. It includes concussive deflection. Has our standard 360 pass through, and then it's got this new wall evasion.
It's not new. I think some old blueprints had that.
Yeah, a lot of the old Siege rockets had the wall evasion, which is an interesting mechanic as well. But that's some serious, interesting weapon right there for a couple of reasons. This would be really nice on an onslaught. It has, and the one thing that I was really looking at, that the concussive deflection, I believe, is that not enough to negate someone sniping you with Nightmare Fangs?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That will be interesting. Yep. There was no real comparison, for want of a better word, to a newer rocket that was in the game. So what I did was I took the 2 other rockets that you could put on Conquerors, one being the Siege 100s, and then the Twin Fire rocket that obviously was released with the I keep wanting to say Inferno Dragons, and I took the top stat off of that. And so this is kind of a comparison between what this new one will do. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have actually been hit with a couple of onslaughts that already have rockets on them.
Yep.
Not these new rockets.
No, not the new rocket. I've seen like they'll come in with a combination with one onslaught with cannons on it, and then the second one will be rockets.
Yeah. I've seen a couple people use the Twin Fire on the onslaughts. It's an interesting.
Yeah, one thought I had just when I looked at, I've never seen a rocket with such a long range. You know, so that on the Hope as Defender, the Hope has a range bonus on the rockets
with the flail and the flail system.
Exactly. So it will give Hopes a huge range advantage over any Conqueror. And 1 second reload, 3 salvo, you know, it's interesting.
Times by min damage.
Yep. This is going to be a very interesting rocket. This is probably one of the first things I get. Jeez.
I'm not even going to go for it. Go for it, George.
You had to. So they released this lowered explosive mount, which is really interesting. It's limited to Garrison hull classes, which kind of coincides with everyone building their Inferno Dragons. The catch is this stacks with a whole lot of stuff, including the original special that came with the Dragon, which I'm a little annoyed at, because now looking at this, I can see a couple of other builds that may prove very interesting in the target. It gives you a lowered explosive range. However, it does stack with an armor special, so you can take advantage of that extra explosive and penetrative defense that it has of the plus 30. You'll lose the range, you'll get some extra explosive damage, but you may be able to charge right past the ECMs using this because of the remote targeting defense that the Inferno Dragon has. And on top of that, it has that bonus combat speed. So now you might not need to go with Mag 3, and you might be able to use the original special.
RFX
was crap. Yeah, that was crap before, because
not crap. I use it.
Yeah, but you can't outrun the cold snaps with it.
Nope.
So, but now you can with this. So that I mean, I like the special. I just really dislike the fact that it's coming out now rather than, you know, when the Inferno Dragon came out.
So correct me if I'm wrong. What's going to happen is the Inferno Dragons have a range of 105. Right? Minus 25%. So it's going to be down to like 72.
I believe so, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So it's really short range, shorter than the icebreakers.
But you're going to be in range of your what's it called?
All the ACMs will target you, and all the mastodons will fire at you. So you will take a lot more fire, and then you gotta hope and test, because we don't know, that the speed will allow you to outrange cold snaps, and the extra defense will compensate for the extra fire, missile fire you're going to be taking.
So the speed actually will get up enough so you can outrun the cold snaps. And then looking at the defense numbers with this stacked on top of the remote defense that the Inferno Dragon has, I think you can actually completely ignore the Mastodons with this on. You'll end up taking, and the thing is even with that range shortened, when you get that short of a range, that special ability of the Twin Fire and the Inferno Dragon kick in when you're that close to the turret.
Yeah, it's going to kick in before your rockets fire, actually.
So that's going to be an interesting combination. There are a couple of builds that I'm just looking at and I'm going, oh, like my mouth's watering. If only I could build the things.
Yeah, I did not do a comparison slide on this because there were so many other explosive specials that were out there. And from what I could see, this did not have a whole lot of blocking on it. They said it was an upgrade. I'm not sure what it was an upgrade for, but you could pretty much stack this with just about anything that was out there. So there are a lot of options for this one should you, or if you're at the point, I mean, my dragons, I've just been putting the weapons and antis on. I haven't got to the specials. So there are a lot of options for this.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at my build and see if I can't squeeze this in somehow. It might, with the extra damage and the defenses, it might be worth losing the pure damage saturation build and just go with hopefully just walking into the stuff and having the special ability kick in. I think it might actually work. I'll be testing. I'll find out.
All I can say is that I'm really glad I have a truckload of tokens for Inferno Dragons.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
They're definitely going to save my FM. Without those, I would have really been hurting with the new change. That and the extension from kicks. Okay, so moving on to the new charged armor C1-CR. This is, I believe, the first charge that we've seen where it's a dual damage reduction. In comparing this to the single ones, the R or the M or the X, so on and so forth, this obviously has a reduced armor pool. It also has a reduced damage reduction. And what I mean by that is that the regular charged armor has a bigger pool and it reduces more damage initially versus these. But George, you had I don't know if you got an answer to your question or not. Something that came up from this is, okay, I'll leave it to you.
Yeah. So one of the questions that we were talking about before the show was what happens if you equip this with an existing charged armor. So if you already have a regular R on and you put this one on, what happens, if I have everything correct here, what happens is that the highest value equipped is used. So the higher deflection number or reduction number is used. And even if you go through the entire pool of the first, the larger one, it still remains at the higher value. So if you have one of the other armors and then this equipped, the higher value of the reduction is actually used for it. So there's no actual drawback other than the pool to use this.
The upside's huge, because you can actually get 18% of both resistances.
Yep.
So instead of getting 18% of one or the other, to do what you said, all you have to do is put one C1C, one C1R, and the other 2-3 armors could be all this one.
Yep.
And in the end, your overall resistances would be better.
And the thing is, I mean, I'm going to play with some of the numbers too, because if you put 4 of these on instead, especially for something like where the Buccaneer that relies on resistances, essentially, it might actually be better to use 4 of these just to get those resistances up. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to play with, everyone's going to have to play with the numbers and see what happens, but it's a very interesting armor. It's very, very interesting armor.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of folks ask me today, why would I even bother with this? Well, if you were unable to get full charged armors, or if you're a couple panels short, and you have the time and the tokens, it doesn't hurt to toss this on for your raid fleet. And if you're unable to get the other ones, and this is also generalist as well. So it's not just limited to the siege fleets. You can also go ahead and put this on the generalist hull.
Yeah, that might be interesting on a Zealous to do the 112s.
Why would you have ballistic
radioactive? Yeah,
radioactive?
I just caught that.
Slap. Wake up, George.
I'm waking up.
What I'm thinking is on the Chameleon, if you want to build that fleet for expeditions, you can get a 2-in-1 slot, right?
Yep. I was just going to ask about expeditions. What do we got that? Let's see.
It would be great if I could get a C1XM next.
Yeah. The other thing is this isn't limited. Yeah, this isn't limited either. This showed up in the regular spot, so this is not a case of one shot use. You can use this over and over and over again.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if you've got when they do drop these ones will become the base parts, right? Yeah. Siege becomes base parts when they do drop the targets. If you need charged armors for other fleets or for other things, you may be able to use some of these on there. Okay, moving on now. Speaking of generalists, we have the new Garrison CIC. Okay,
so now you can think of building Chameleons for FM. Because yesterday people were asking about it, and I said, don't. Now you can think about it. I would still wait for a flagship, but you can think about it now.
Okay, so this one gives 20% explosive, 30 penetrative, also adds combat speed as well as splash damage reduction, as well as turn speed, and it's also cold snap immune. It does reduce the ballistic and the concussive defense, though. It does give a building damage upgrade as well as a wall damage upgrade. I don't know. I was kind of looking at this today because I got the token, so I was kind of playing around with some builds today, and I think this may actually bring some new life to options for the Chameleon.
Yeah, but still, I mean, if you have the Infernal Dragon blueprint, are you going to build the Infernal Dragons or even the Icebreakers, where you have a bunch of tokens in FM every week to get it done fast, or are you going to build the Chameleon?
It's interesting because the kicker for me is I never used the Icebreaker. So I've got the 4 regular ones built. I don't have the flag built. And I missed one of those TLCs, so I can't finish that. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, there are some that don't have the Icebreakers and, just coming into the game or just coming back after a while. So. Okay, moving on to the new MC Plate 1. This one obviously is causing a lot of angst with players. This is not limited. It does, however, have a cap, meaning that you can't just willy-nilly put 10 pieces of this on every boat that's in your fleet. I believe it's 3, which is, I think that's similar to the original new ones that came out, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so this one lives by the 3 cap rule. You can only put 3 per hull on. This has reduction of penetrative deflection of 281,000 and then 618,000 ballistic. It has the standard pass-through that we're seeing nowadays, the 360 to 360. So how about this for the Howie?
Yeah.
I've seen some math with some of the builds that are out there on the Howie. It looks like you're going to need to have all 3 of these on there.
Not really.
Depends on the hull as well, yeah.
Even the Howie and everything, I think, and I'm not going to do the math and I don't have it memorized, but I think the Howie was just getting at or just over 1 million damage per shot when you had a crit, right? When you had a crit, it was like 1.1 million or something. But then you apply turret defense, and it's immediately down to 600 tops, right? And I'm talking crit hit with fire support, with everything. I think you got to something like 1.2 million. Okay.
And 2 of these will do 1.2.
Well, and you don't even need, I mean, one of these, because the turret damage, you gotta cut by half because of turret defense. So even if you were getting, I think nominal 290 was the best I saw. So 290, you apply all the fire support, you get, you know, and they are multiplicative. So, and then you apply ×4 for a crit hit. Anyways, let's say the best you could get is 1.4, okay, million per shot, critical. You divide by 2, 50% turret resistance, it's 700. So one of these plates, and you're already going to be taking, I don't know, 60, 70, 80K damage. Some people can specialize their bases really well to make the Howie do more than that, but then you got to do what I call unnatural things around the single turret. So, you know, one of those, and your survivability against Howie is going to go up big time. 2, and it's only pass through.
And the mega cannon as well.
Yeah, that alone,
negates,
one of those alone kills the Omega already.
Yeah, that negates the Omega.
Because think about it, I mean, let's say today on my Conqueror, I have 3 of the CP5. Each one gives me 64 ballistic already. So I take one of those out and I put one of these in, and I have 120 plus 618, 740K deflection. 2 CP5 and one of those. Done. So, you know, like, let's just say that I know GD Raycon said he has a plan, and in the end, it's all going to balance out. But right now, what we are seeing are power swings that are going faster and stronger than ever before. I mean, we just got the Howie on Sunday or Thursday, if you were an overachiever, right? And now a week later, boom, there's a counter. And it's not a counter that minimizes or mitigates the damage. It's a counter that makes it useless. That's the thing I'm saying. It's like every counter that comes to something, or every ship that comes out to counter something, it's like, oh, let's make it useless for a week or 2.
Do we think this is going to, I understand what you're saying and agree with it, but do we think that this is going to, are we shortening the gap? Are we going to get to a point where it is a little bit closer?
I think when we have 4 or 5 pieces on each side of the equation, so 4 or 5 hulls, the 7 conquerors, each one of them very strong against one damage type and dealing that one damage type, and then 4 or 5 turrets like the Howie, like the Executioner 2, and then probably the rest of those armors. I expect to see a CR, plate 1, whatever. You know, at some point, I think players will be forced to make choices. Like, oh, if I put my Howies here, then I can put turret X there. So now I got to prioritize which turret do I want to have versus which turret's not going to be in an optimal position, right? Because simply, you cannot have 8 turrets, 10 turrets surrounded by 5 fire support 2 fields, for instance.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing.
Compromise.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is essentially the rebalancing of PvP, and you know, they could have. I mean, I hesitate to say this. They could have given us the options to choose paths at the beginning of the year and let us see everything to see where the hell we're going. Because right now, you know, 2017 PvP was such a mess. I think what we're doing is getting to. They're releasing enough things so where I'm guessing probably. I don't know. So it's January, February, March, May, June. We'll probably see enough things out released where we'll have toolboxes on each side that are filled with enough things that we're going to have a balance. So you'll go into a base and you'll have to start picking the base apart again, like we used to.
But I think it's still going to be 2 months before, two or 3 before we get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think because I was looking at it last week and I was looking at the releases and stuff, and I'm going to guess it's going to be around May or June where we're going to see a balance to the point where it's not going to be 1 week this, 1 week that. You know, one week click the back of the base, the next week you can't get into any base. I think we're getting there. I just think that right now we're in the growing pain stage, and I mean, if anything, if the timing's right, going from the beginning of the year to say, I mean, even at the outside June, we're probably at the worst part of it right now, which really sucks because it's these swings again that everyone does not like. We all hate the swings, and we were told the swings are going to go away, but I think the thing is it's going to take time to get the swings to go away.
Yeah.
We have to get to a point of balance first, and
but here's the thing, George. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, we saw the pattern. So the pattern is a Conqueror that does one damage type and has that same damage type as its main deflection. And then the weapon brings a second damage type. And then we have the armors to balance out the other 4 deflection types, right? Then we have on the defense side turrets that annihilate the hull released a few weeks before. But then the next one is immune against it. So we see how the pattern goes. And we also see that the Conquerors are going pack of 3 in bounty as a top prize. Next month, you have a pack of 1 for 10,000 bounty or so. And the month after, or 2 weeks later, it's in the raid, very cheap. Just like we saw the Onslaught now very cheap. And we had the Hope the month before very cheap, right? So by the time we have 6 damage types, so 6 deflection types and whatnot. So we have 2 out. This bounty coming in 2 weeks down the road, I guess. We're going to have the 3rd one, and that's March. So we should have all 6 by June, right?
Yeah.
Which means we're going to have all 6 turrets by July. So maybe at some point in May, it starts to get interesting because people start to having to make sacrifices. So, I'm going to mix these ships in my fleet, so that means I'm going to be vulnerable against X.
Go ahead.
No,
that's what I was just going to say, and I was having a discussion the other night on that. There's going to be a point where, if the flavor of the month hull is the Onslaught, then they brought out the missile, and now the flavor of the month was the missile hull, and they brought out the ballistic. We're going to get to a point where you could use that plus any new prizes that come out, and you're not going to be able to defend against everything exceptionally well.
Yeah, exactly. But then here's the thing. Okay, so by that estimate, by end of June, we'll have all 6 hulls, all like tier 7 Conquerors out, unless they give us a break in between and put some defenders in the mix. Then that moves the whole thing by a month or 2, right? You have all the 6 tier 7 Conquerors. Then we have all the 6 turrets by July. And then we'll say, at that point we balance. In theory, at that point we'll have a very balanced game where people have choices and strategies and whatnot. But then they'll start again. Then there's going to be tier 6, 7.5, and they'll start all over again. And at that point, that's when I'm curious, like by August or whatever, when they start with the 7.5 stuff, and probably towards the end of the year, Outpost 11 and turrets level 10 and everything again. If at that point they make an elegant, subtle, incremental transition, then we'll be able to look back and say, that was a great plan. If they just escalate things by 1 million again, then it throws everything out of whack again. You know what I mean? That's what I don't know.
Yeah, that's what
numbers are getting very, very big.
Yeah, that's what I'd said on Saturday. I think the only concern I have is like I can see where they're going. I think my concern is once we get there and we get to the point of balance, can they maintain it?
Exactly.
That's the catch.
Right? If tier 7, 5, or 8, however they decide to call, is an incremental evolution, fine. If it's a massive evolution, or now we're going to see hulls at, I don't know, 10 million armor, right? Then it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I think once we get there, I think once we get to the balance point, that's going to be where it goes. For now, I think we're just in growing pains, and I know everyone's upset. I mean, hell, I'm upset. I'm not even building Conquerors at this point now. I'm just trying to refit certain things and just wait it out for a little bit.
Yeah, my suggestion: everybody should have 2 of each if you have the Conqueror shipyard time, because what else are you going to build there, right? Build the Conquerors and have them over there. Like now you got a new rocket for the Onslaught, so put it on. At some point you're going to start having to pick 2 because right now it's still simple enough that people have their winning combinations. You see all the time, oh, 3 missile cruisers and 2 sloths, or this, you know, there's 2-3 combos that everybody's using. Very few people are being original. Like the other day, a guy prepped my guard with some malices and some missile cruisers, and I'm like, oh, that's original thinking. That's different.
Yep.
No, don't say that. I just scrapped a malice.
It was cool. I mean, it was something I had never seen before. I'm like, okay, that's really cool. Because other than that, pretty much every hit looks the same. Oh, here come the 3 missile cruisers with the bus and then the extra sloth. Yay, same thing.
Okay, some really, really good points. All right, need to move on here so we can finish up the rest of the slides before our allotted time. We have some new retrofits in the retrofit lab. We have 3 of them. The first one is for the Survivor.
I scrapped 3 of them on Sunday.
Yeah, it's catching. I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's a bunch of deflection that's put in there, splash that's put in there, and an increase in weight, which is kind of interesting because they've now increased the weight of the regular hulls, but not for hulls that have flags associated with them. So if we move on to the Rage, same thing here. We've got a bunch of increases on these, and then they've increased the max weight up, but it doesn't seem to affect the flagship. So we're going to see situations where your regular hulls can carry more weight than the other hulls. Again, on this splash damage reduction, they've also added deflections that are in here, but I don't think they have raised the pass-through damage on the hull. Did anybody get a chance to take a look at that?
That is interesting, because if these guys can have like 310,000 ballistic deflection and still have only 20 pass through.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting.
See, on this one, this one actually speaks to it. It says radioactive pass through from 0 to 20. So if there's a bunch of retros that are out there, you may be able to.
Yeah, their downside is still that they have like 100,000 armor, not 2 million armor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
And also we have the Pride. Same thing here. I've added some pass-through. They've increased DPS on this one, deflections, and again, the max weight for these ones, at least not on the flag, from 9100 to 11.8. Now, I did look. I think the first level was 1 day in either 8 hours or 18 hours for the first level. So I know, obviously, as these get higher, there's going to take a lot more time to go ahead and finish these off.
But they have to add the flagships to those retrofits.
Yes, I did ask that and say, okay, how are we going to handle this? So, it would be nice if I know flags give certain deflections and additions and buffs to the fleet, but it would be nice that when we retrofit in the repair specialist, that there's some way that they could include the flag, or at least for some of it. Yeah. Especially because the flag takes so much longer to build, and yet from that point forward, unless they bring out a specific retro for that flag, it's just going to stay the same that it is.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. In addition to the FM and the retros, they are repeating the TLC March to War. Everybody groan. More sub targets. This one drives me nuts.
I am so tired of driving those damn subs.
But here's the thing, I'm going to do it all, because look at the mastery price.
Tokens, yes. I cannot overlook the 15 days worth of non-specific Conqueror tokens.
Exactly. There's no way to ignore that.
I know, it's just, well, if you leave it till the last minute, then it's...
But I got to say, people who are not getting the tier 7 Conquerors, the Eviscerator is so good.
Yes. And this, is Fangtooth. So those that have finished the Fangtooth, that also gives the Chaos Chain Gun. The Kinetic Motion Cannon, of course, is another BFG for the outpost that causes a lot of pain. So even if you can't get the mastery level done, if you can get some of these lower level duns, you got Siege Reloader in there, as well as the chain gun, as well as that other one. So even if not getting to the tokens, if you don't have these parts and you have just finished your Fangtooth fleet or partial Fangtooth fleet, you want to go ahead and get as many of these, as much of this done as possible. Okay, we also have our VXP weekend coming up. This weekend runs from Friday through until Monday. As per usual, unidentified 55s will be there for the whole time. The level 100, which is the siege style target, will only spawn from Friday morning until Saturday night PM, pretty much standard. On the 100, you can't retreat from it. And this is the one that will give you the Defender VXP tokens. So if you have built Defenders, don't try to rank those in these. You know, if you've got raid fleets, go out there and kill them off and get the target. And something that I noticed last time around, at least where I was, people were leaving like 90% completed targets. And so I was just peeking in all of them, and if it was 3/4 of the way done, I just 30 seconds worth of battle, and boom, there I got my token.
I'm full. I don't even have room for Defender class tokens anymore.
Yep. I am full on mine now, but Conquerors though are still the issue. I don't believe they ever, and Kix, if you're listening, the requirement to have the mega hull to go ahead and craft those Conqueror tokens, they need to look at that and figure out some other way for people to go ahead and get those.
People need to get off their asses and build a freaking mega hull just to get the tokens.
Oh, I agree, it's worth it. I mean, I'm glad to do it. They just said a long time ago they were going to look at an alternative.
Yeah, think about it. I mean, like I've been crafting those tokens, and a lot of people, like, since what? When did they come out? August last year? June last year? I don't know. And people are still protesting that they need to create a mega hull to be able to craft those. In the meantime, how many Conquerors did you rank for free?
Oh, multiples.
Right? And people are still whining and crying about it. So,
Yeah. So yep, regular VXP. Again, if you're building hulls and you can skinny build them, pop the hull in with either an engine or a thud on it, or maybe just the thud, or even just a single weapon to go in there and suicide for them. Get as many of those done as you can before Friday. Of note, my understanding is the proto Tide Seeker that they did get everybody came out and hatched unranked. Is that true?
Correct.
Yep. So if you have that proto Tide Seeker, it does not have any rank. So include that in your equation for when you're going to go out and rank if you're running a Grease Monkey or something like that.
Yeah, I got lots and lots to rank. So much to rank.
I actually only have one thing.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Well, 2 now with the proto. Well, because I use the tokens on all of the other stuff.
Oh, my Infernal Dragons, I think I have 3 at 60%, 1 without rank.
You guys are all overachievers.
I got a rank. No, but we got tokens, right, for the Infernal Dragons. So a rank token. So I had 3. I used 1 on each and got them to 60%. The 4th one has no rank.
Oh, that brings something up, and I ran into this the other day with somebody. If you've got tokens for something, and you're going to be, let's just use the Inferno Dragon. Let's say you can get 3 done between now and the VXP weekend. If you've got tokens for that type of ship, don't use those now. Save those for after the VXP weekend so that when that hull does get done, you can get a huge amount of rank on it straight away as opposed to having to go out and hitting a bazillion map targets. So instead
That's
of...
a good point.
Yeah, I did that with my last Hydra. I saved the Hydra tokens, and I did that, I think, with Fangs and Hunters. So save those tokens if you know you've still got another hull coming.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it for VXP weekend. Last thing, bug fixes and tuning. These are both obviously tied to the raid. They, of course, fixed the issue for the shenanigans that was occurring for the beginning of the raid. And they also took care of the additional double turret placement.
Are you telling me no? That's what they released last week, right? Not released today, because now the event's over. Who cares?
Yeah, no, they just missed it. Okay, George or Ren, do you have anything you want to go ahead and add?
I had something, but you interrupted me and I forgot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I think we covered all of it. I mean, there's a couple of things that people are they're going to push back about, and there are some concerns, obviously, for some things. But overall, it's a decent release. I mean, we've had much worse, so this is good.
It's George's fault, Ren. He turns into a pumpkin in a few minutes.
Yeah, he does.
It's all my fault.
Oh. Well, thank you both for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. And thanks to all of you that showed up in chat. We certainly appreciate the time that you spend with us on our weekly shows. We'll go ahead and post the link. And then I guess we'll see people on Saturday.
Yep.
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody.
Night, people.
Good night.